to ensure that he stems the issue of insecurity. Instead, it has escalated and gone beyond. I mean, you can see the brazen, the audacity with which they were able to penetrate a secured facility like the Kuje prison in Abuja in the center of the country. Any team, call them Boko Haram, call them Ragtag Army, call them whatever you want to call them, bandits, that were able to pull off that. I don't think it would have been very difficult for them to also topple the government, to enter into Aso Rock and upturn the status quo, as it were. So we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. It's not something that we must handle with kids' clothes.
Interesting point there, Barrister Eugene Ode. But right now, let's move over to the very first issue that we'll be discussing this morning concerning the 2023 election. Nigeria will remain indivisible despite challenges. This according to Wale Oke. Now, the National President, Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Dr. Francis Wale Oke, has allayed the fears of many Nigerians over the forthcoming 2023 elections, saying Almighty God has a joker towards the elections. He urged Nigerians to be calm and await the joker, as God will provide solutions to all challenges pertaining to the elections. While fielding questions from journalists, Dr. Wale Oke says he was optimistic that Nigeria will remain indivisible despite the daunting challenges confronting her as a nation. He said, God has a joker for the 2023 elections. The elections will be concluded and Nigeria will not break. The saints have prayed, and God is bigger than men. Let us be calm and see how God will overrule the plans of the enemy. God is bigger than men and will prove himself mighty in the case of Nigeria. The prayers of the saints will be answered by God because 2023 is in the hands of God. The PFN president concludes. Barrister Eugene Ode, what do you make of this development?
Well, the man of God has spoken. One thing I always try to avoid is to add or subtract or edit what a man of God has said. They are special breeds of human beings because they hear directly from God. We are mere mortals. We don't have the kind of giftings and the kind of exposure they have spiritually. But the issue of the indivisibility of Nigeria will probably not be as a result of the 2023 election. Even if that is going to happen, it will not be in the election year. This is because we have people already canvassing for votes across the country on different political platforms. You have APC members canvassing for votes in the National Assembly in the eastern part of the country. You have PDP members canvassing for votes in the northern part of the country, and vice versa. In different parts of the country, you have members of various political groups, parties canvassing for votes to serve the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Amongst all these political parties, I've not heard of anyone that is actually out there canvassing for secession or canvassing for division of the country. Rather, people are working together to see how to come together to work and salvage this country of division. I don't see it playing out as the elections are approaching, because people are concentrated, people are actually more interested in seeing how to come together to salvage Nigeria's problems of insecurity, problems of health, the healthcare delivery system. ASU is on strike. Everyone is feeling the pinch, north, south, east, and west. Our economy is dwindling and is being felt all over the country. So there's no particular part of the country that you can say is better off. We hear of the ESN in the eastern part of Nigeria. Okay, of course, when we talk about secession right now, your mind will want to play towards the east. Okay, they are the ones who have the IPOB and the ESN, and they have been advocating for secession from the union. But then, if you look at it, if you say it is because of insecurity that you want to break away from Nigeria, your own place is not secured. All right? And the people who are orchestrating the insecurity in your own region are not the Boko Haram, they are not the ISWAP, they are not the bandits. They are your own people. You have the unknown gunmen. those ones don't even have an ideology. They don't have an identity. We just hear today that one dignitary has been mowed down, one church has been burnt down, one facility, government facility, school has been burnt down, and so these are people who you don't even know their identity, and they haven't come forward to say. Although I know people associate it with IPOB and associate it with, but then these unknown gunmen remain unknown up till now, but we know that they're operating heavily within that region of the country. So if you single out insecurity as the only reason why you want to secede from Nigeria, then, and we see it in abundance in your region, then you don't have a strong case.
Now you make me.
I didn't say IPOB does not have an ideology. I said the unknown gunmen.
Okay.
Those ones, we don't even know their identity. And you can't say for sure, for certain, that they are acting on behalf of IPOB. You can't say so. IPOB has not owned those attacks, directly owned those attacks to say, okay, those attacks are being planned, executed by IPOB. So they remain unknown until they are unmasked. But the fact is that they are operating within the territory of the eastern part of the country, and they are wreaking havoc. So the insecurity we are talking about, all right, it shouldn't be the only basis for which, if you say insecurity is the only basis for which Nigeria must succeed, we have insecurity in every part of the country. We have insecurity in the west, you know, we have insecurity in the south, southern part of the country. So instead of us to divide because we have a challenge, why don't we come together and fashion out a way to resolve this issue together as a country? All over the country, we have insecurity. If you listen to news, you hear what's happening in America, where you have, you have people shooting, you know, mass shooting in different states in America. They didn't say because they have that challenge that they should go their separate way. Rather, what you see them do is they rally themselves and find a way, maybe strengthen their institutions. And that's why I'm telling you that you can see that Nigerians are genuinely interested in solving their problems. That's why you see people, I can tell you, one of the campaign slogan that you will see a lot of these politicians, north, south, east, and west, doling out during their election, their campaign period, will be the issue of insecurity. It will be a common word in the mouth of every politician who is canvassing for any office in Nigeria. That tells you that people want to come together, you know, as Nigerians, you know, to resolve the problem. It's secession or division can never be the solution for the
insecurity or whatever challenges we are facing, because then in the past you could see negative prophecies coming from some of this religious leader. Now the question is, what role should religious leader play in this forthcoming 2023 election? Do you see what position are there for the religious leader in this coming 2023 general election?
Okay, Barrister, did you get that question?
I didn't quite get
Patience,
it.
can you take the question
the
again?
thing is, I said, what are the roles? What do you think would be the role of religious leader in this forthcoming 2023 general election?
I get it now. Okay, I think I get it now. you cannot overemphasize the role of the religious institutions in terms of orientation. It behooves, because they have a large followership. You have some churches that are so big. You have like the Catholic faith. You have large followership across the country. You have the Pentecostal churches, Winners Chapel, Deeper Life, Christ Embassy, you name them. There are so many. These are big, very mega churches with large followership, and this followership are Nigerians. So a word from the church, from the pulpit, will actually go a long way, okay, to calm the system and also to prepare citizens adequately for the. I hear some churches are already campaigning for PVCs for their members to participate and go get involved and get their PVCs. That's a step towards the right direction, because hitherto we had a situation where religious leaders were laid back on the issue of politics. Some of them were even preaching against it, never wanting their members to participate. You know, they termed it a worldly exercise and stuff like that. But that narrative is changing. We are now seeing churches actually going all out to urge their members to not just get involved in participating in registering to vote, but to also get involved in even partisan politics. We are seeing a situation where even church members are now taking up political positions and contesting for political positions. So you can see that the influence of the clergy is visible and is tangible. So they have a role to play in our political experiment as a nation, both in the churches, both in the mosques, and in fact every religious institution in the country. Nigeria is a very religious country, and people believe more in their religious leaders than even politicians and even government officials. So when we used to have apathy was because the political leaders were themselves not interested. And now that they're interested, you're going to see that there's going to be a boost. You're going to have a larger participation of Nigerians in the next and the forthcoming elections.
Interesting, interesting. Now let's go over to Christopher, who is standing by. Christopher, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. How is it over there with you?
No problem, so good. So Christopher, you've been listening to the discussion we have been having this morning, and that is concerning the issues concerning what Wale Oke has said, which is who happens to be the president of the PFN, concerning how Nigeria would not divide after the elections. It says it's a revelation that God has given to you. What question would you have on that for our guest this morning?
Well, I'm actually impressed with the statement. At least there's no political grounds. He's not trying to preach any other political ground. But the angle I'm coming from is, now this is a very good aspect that he has come from. What about places whereby most of these religious personnel come out to say something that will intrigue the citizens? How can we cope with things like that in that kind of angle?
Well, every speech from religious leaders has a way of affecting the country. You remember, and even rattling even the system, because there's a time when the leader of the Redeemed Christian Church, you know who I'm talking
Yes,
about?
I do.
Oyedepo. No, it's not
Adebayo.
Oyedepo. Adeboye.
Adeboye.
Bishop Adeboye came up to ask Christians, his worshippers in his church, to defend themselves. Okay, and that he used the word fire for fire, something like that. That Christians were not going to sit back. I'm paraphrasing now, not exactly his word, but the one that actually generated ripples was the phrase fire for fire. And he came out a few days after the backlash. We saw the backlash in the media, Twitter and all that social media. Why would he use the word fire for fire? Is it that he's now asking Christians to procure arms to defend themselves and all that? And he came out clean and said He wasn't asking people to procure arms. Of course, he was able to explain it. In the scriptures, is there that the kingdom of God suffering violence and violence taken it by force. Is there in the Bible. Well, you could interpret it in any way, but the truth is that any comment made by religious leaders like that has a way of rattling and creating ripples within. People may misinterpret it and stretch it beyond the original intention. But whatever it is, the man is addressing a very salient issue that is common to all of us. In fact, we remember a situation where some governors in the north, not just Autumn. We know Autumn has been one of the advocates of self-defense for a long time now. But the other governors who are joining in that fray, who are asking their citizens...
Even Akere Delu of recent.
Yes. They are now beginning to rally citizens to begin to plan to defend themselves against insurgency. And you can see that people are not just sleeping in their, in their houses and just allowing things to happen. Leaders are speaking out, and before long, it will be a situation where we'll see like what is happening in America today. In America, you have the gun regulation that allows citizens to bear arms to defend themselves. Maybe Nigeria may eventually get to that point where citizens will now legislations will have to be made to allow Nigerians bear arms to defend themselves. Because self-defense is a constitutional right. You have a right to life. The right to life, you are the only one who can actually guarantee that right to life. Nobody has a right to come and take your life just like that. So in the process of defending your life, you have the liberty to kill. That process is guaranteed by the Constitution.
All right.
So if somebody comes to kill you with a gun and you don't have a corresponding force to ward off, what happens? It means you have surrendered your rights to life.
That's true. All right, Barrister Eugene is saying this morning that every individual has a right to life and is also saddled with a corresponding force to ward off anything that would create danger to that particular life that they hold. And that's according to Barrister Eugene. Party, PDP, and the All Progressive Congress, APC, will have to join forces in order to defeat Peter Obi, the candidate of the Labour Party, in the forthcoming presidential election. Aisha, who is the co-convener of Bring Back Our Girls, BBOG, advocacy group, says the 2023 is not for big money spenders. According to her, the rate at which this is going, the call will soon be for PDP and APC to join forces for any of them to have hope of winning. Time is the enemy of politicians that have to spend money for anything to be done, and the friend of politicians that the people are ready to spend for. Reports in Nigeria indicate that the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi is gathering an enormous support from the electorate, especially the youth. Barrister Eugene Ode. Alabo Barrister Eugene Ode for the righties of for the righties of context. What do you make of this development? Aisha Yusufu is speaking some very profound words here this morning, and she's talking about the fact that it will only take an alliance of the PDP and the APC to defeat Peter Obi at the polls. What do you make of this development?
Well, with respect to Aisha, we saw what she did with Bring Back Our Girls campaign. We also saw what she did with the NSAS campaign. She has become a national icon. She has become a symbol representative of the youth, the new face of Nigeria. But the only concern I have is if we are indeed ready for that change. Nigerians are sick and tired of the politicians. The two major political parties have failed us. PDP ruled for 16 years and only created more problems than solutions for this country. The same things that Abiola campaigned in 1993, those same things are still campaign materials in the mouth of these politicians even till today. You still see them talking about infrastructure. You still see them talking about healthcare. You still see them talking about workers' welfare. You still see them talking about everything. Go and play Abiola's campaign of 1993. You will see that this same campaign jingles are still embedded in the mouth of every politician who is coming out to campaign for election till today. Meaning to tell you that these politicians are yet to understand the problems of this country, and they are unwilling to take Nigeria out of the woods where we find ourselves. And that's the reason why you see an average Nigerian is fed up with the Nigerian politician, and they want a change. And when you hear Peter Obi speak, he speaks to the sentiments of Nigerians. He speaks to the pains of Nigerians. You hear him say, take back your country. You know, people are now beginning to understand, to have a sense of belonging. They know, they are beginning to have that consciousness that Nigeria belongs to all of us, and not just the politicians. Something is happening right now in Sri Lanka. Such a thing is what might likely happen if care is not taken. Now, you cannot undermine, you cannot underestimate the power of people power. In politics, people power is stronger than money power, is stronger than political power. We saw the revolution, we saw the Arab Spring. We saw what happened during the Arab Spring. People poured out in the streets and went after their leaders. We had almost something like that almost happened during the NSAS crisis. All right, so you cannot underestimate people power in politics. The issue is the management of the power. That's where I don't know the people who are behind it. I don't know their capacity. I don't know how they're able to navigate the system. The system, the way it's structured, is such that it favors the strong political parties, the big political parties. These other smaller political parties, you may come out and state your point. You may come out and make your noise. But how is the system structured? These are the areas where, and that's why you hear people saying that their greatest albatross is the fact that they don't have a nationwide structure. If you don't have a structure formidable enough to be able to unseat the status quo, you may very well want to rely on the Arab Spring method, or you want to rely on the Sri Lanka method. Because for you to be able to capture power from these politicians, you must have a very strong, viable, formidable structure from bottom to top. You may have a Labour Party candidate that is widely acceptable all over the country, but you don't have the foundation. You don't have the roots. You don't have the premises upon which to drive that ambition. It's a very huge ambition, and I admire what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing. It's creating consciousness all across the country. But my worries are that how is the system going to accommodate this sentiment? Now, when I say the system, I'm actually pointing my fingers towards INEC. We know that INEC, their sole responsibility is to manage the election, beginning from registering voters, ensuring that people get their PVCs, and a level playing field is created for people to exercise their franchise, and that votes count. My attention is on INEC. I don't care about whether it's PDP, whether it's APC, whether it's Labour Party. We should focus more on making sure that INEC does their job without creating unnecessary advantage for the stronger parties. You know, why I'm saying this is because up till now, we hear people are coming out en masse to register, and that is not a problem. The problem now is, after registration, what happens? Will they be able to meet the target of distributing the PVCs before the election? You can register. I'm sure, look, as I'm talking to you now, I know that there are people who registered before the 2015 elections who have not gotten their PVCs. In fact, there are people who even registered in 2009 to vote, cast their vote. I mean, 2015, actually. Let's begin from 2015. Up till today, as we speak, they don't have their PVCs.
All right,
and that is a national issue. These are areas where we have to look at. So there's no guarantee that this number of registrants who are pouring out every day to register will get their PVC. Of course, you know that without your PVC, you cannot vote. And I don't see INEC releasing these PVCs to Nigerians to vote in the 2023 election.
Interesting. Over to you now, Patience. Okay, let's go to Christopher.
Right. Now, it's a good thing that the guest mentioned something about structure, and that has really struck a whole lot of concern. And then I am really concerned because sometime last month we had some political gurus talking about the whole structure thing, the Labour Party and other alliance party. We're talking about the PDP and the APC and the structure and all of that. That the LP does not really have that kind of structure to get where they're looking at. Now, looking at how popular the awareness of Peter Obi is right now, how the youths are clamping over his voting and everything, talking about it even on skits and all of that. But then the concern now is the structure. So now the question is, looking at the awareness, the love for this candidate, do you think based on the structure he can make it? And if not, what do you think can be done? I'm just concerned.
Well, to be honest, the popularity of Peter Obi is increasing by the day. And I can tell you that the major political parties are concerned. And I'm sure that informed the reason why Aisha made that statement, that the only thing that he's foreseeing now is a measure to block the, the consciousness that is spreading all across the country about Peter Obi, all across the country, north, south, east, and west, and all that, across and all that. Some of them will not even come out on election day. They will just be making noise in their houses. Saw what happened in Ekiti State recently. The real people who have the PVCs who will cast their votes, some of them don't even know what is happening on Twitter and on TV and all that.
Interesting.
And they are ready.
Interesting point.
this agreement has been on the table. Who was in power start 2009?
The issue is that Saraki strike wouldn't have lingered.
But this
long.
agreement was on while he was Senate president.
That's the point I'm making. I'm debunking what he's saying, that he would have made the difference, or if it was PDP that was in power, there would have been a difference. He was in PDP at some point. So PDP from 2019 up to 2014, where he switched to APC and became Senate.
When I read that story, I was wondering where is it coming from? But there's something very important that's still in the news, because we'll keep talking about this or to see what happened between lawyers led by. He has also threatened to institute a legal action against an online media outfit, Sahara Reporters, should it fail to retract the said report within 7 days. Now, in his pre-litigation notice, a copy of which was cited, we refer to your publication dated to the 23rd of June 2022 with the caption, "Exclusive Anti-Graft Agency ICPC uncovers billions in cash meant for arms ammunition to fight Boko Haram in Abuja, home of the ex-chief of army staff Buruta." Now, in the said publication, you alleged that they are referring to Sahara Reporters now. So you alleged that the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, that's ICPC, had recovered 1.85 billion from a house and office said to belong to our client. It was further reported by you that the huge cash was part of the billions of naira earmarked for the purchase of arms and ammunition by the Muhammad Buhari-led government. This is a very serious allegation capable of brewing hatred, attack by the public against our clients as a former chief of army staff. There is no doubt that Nigerians are seriously concerned about the security situation of the country, and the said publication has portrayed our client as a person responsible for diversion of funds meant for the fight against Boko Haram. Consequently, our client has been exposed to hate, ridicule, and embarrassment from members of the public, with his friends calling him from different parts of the world to explain. Now, the publication is not only false but malicious and an attempt to malign the reputation of our client. By your publication, that Sahara Reporters publication, our client has been ridiculed as a man without honor, dignity, and incapable of representing Nigeria, and portrayed as a fraudster, dishonest person before Nigerians and the international community. We hereby demand that you retract your publication with a public apology to our clients within 7 days of receiving this letter, and a public apology to be published in 2 national dailies. Take notice that if you fail, neglect, and or refuse to publish the apology within 7 days from today, we shall not hesitate to commence legal action against your organization for defamation. It is hoped that you would comply to avoid the unpleasantness of litigation and its attendant, Eugene Ode.
Okay.
If I have, let's say, ATN.
Okay. They are saying ICPC is actually the one that investigated and came up with that report. And ICPC has not said anything either for or against that report. They ought to have waited for ICPC first to make. For instance, in Rivers State, we hear that Rotimi Chibike Amechi, the former governor of Rivers State and former transport minister, is facing criminal charges at the High Court of Rivers State. We hear that a public, the white paper has been published and all that. Those things are verifiable information which you can actually do a story on. If you go to the Ministry of Justice, you will find it. These are public documents that are available for anybody to access, and you can use that, run any story on, and you'll be safe. But you don't go ahead of the institutions to begin to announce, even if you are aware that such a thing happened. As long as the institution has not made it public, why the rush? So I see a situation where Sahara Reporters will definitely suffer a lot of legal skirmishes if they refuse. That's the letter from a lawyer. When the lawyer writes, you know what will follow.
Now, speaking of what would follow, we'll come back to this, but let's really get to Chris.
All right, Vivian. So looking at this whole thing, it's a good thing that the guest mentioned something about ICPC, not saying something yet about the whole thing, and then the lawyers have already made a statement without getting information from them first, since the source actually is to come from them. Now, the question to ask now is concerning what happens to the former CGN. After he left the office based on medical grounds, all of a sudden there was a probe set for him a committee. How about this other one of the COAS? Is there no probe already? Maybe to check and find out, and if there isn't, why? Maybe that too could help to resolve the whole thing and for the whole citizen to know what really is going on in the closet.
Now, when the government decides to set up a judicial or a panel of inquiry of any kind to investigate any public officer, all right, you can make a story on the issue of the panel of inquiry, but you don't make a publication to suggest an indictment until that panel of inquiry actually concludes their work and indicts the person in their report. You as a publisher or as a media house, you shouldn't jump the gun. You can't go ahead of the, what if the panel that was set up exonerates the individual who is being investigated? I think it's always better you wait until the panel of inquiry comes out with a report before you now publish said report. I don't know of any panel of inquiry that has been set up to investigate Buratai. I'm not, maybe if you are, if you're seized with that fact, let us know. No panel of inquiry has been set up as of yet. There's not been any indictment from any institution, either EFCC, ICPC, or any of the anti-graft agencies so far yet that is known in the public, within the public domain. I think Sahara Reporters was just on a voyage of discovery. Well, they might likely face the legal consequences. At the end
while we keep looking at the voyage of discovery and its aftermath, we hope that Sarah Reporter can either recant or apologize. But let's get it from patients now.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Now, looking at this story, don't you think it's best for Buratai himself to come out and speak on this issue? Like, this is self-defense between him and Sahara Reporters. Why not come out and say these allegations are wrong? Then from there, we'll know where we're going to start. Maybe there will be proper investigation. I would say that that's a good public relation coming out from the lawyer. But then again, I want Buratai coming out to speak on this issue, saying, no, these allegations are wrong. What do you think of that?
Well, the lawyer's letter has spoken the mind of his client. Everything on that letter is Buratai that is talking through his lawyers. He has decided by choice that his lawyers should speak on his behalf. There is no law that says he must be the one to speak for himself. After all, this is a libel and it's litigation that is being anticipated. He won't be the one to go to court to do the matter for himself. The lawyers will actually be the ones to go to court to do the matters for himself. I think everything that the lawyer has written there, he has even done more than even the man would have done by himself, because he has tied everything to the legalese of the issues, which of course Buratai is not professionally competent to do.
All right, there's another aspect of this issue of libel that we are looking at. Supposedly, that is, if Sahara Reporters fail to, recant the story and give the public apology, that will solve the issue. However, this is not the first time we've seen a media report or Sahara Reporters being accused of publishing a story, that seem not to be true and all that and all that. Now, what are the legal consequences for such action, especially today where we have citizen journalists who jump in and just get stories and throw it around and without care, or who gets hurt in the process?
I've just told you now that Buratai is a public figure and he has a lot of international recognition. And who knows, maybe he also has...
an ambassador.
Yes, of course, an ambassador. Who knows, maybe he also has business allies all across the world. And this report is capable of lowering his estimation in the eyes of the public. Is capable of inciting contempt and exposing him to public opprobrium across the globe. And such things are also capable of dwindling his business fortunes all across. So you look at the man's worth, gross and net worth. So those are the things that will be playing out in the mind of whoever is adjudicating the matter, the judge. So those are the things that they take into account. And if they consider all these factors, then it's going to be a very heavy weight on Sahara Reporters. I think the easiest way for them out of this issue, if that report has no merit, is to pull it down and to do a retraction and tender an apology is the easy way to go. That's what the man is demanding, nothing more.
And if they fail to do that, what are we looking at
it
here
means
legally?
they are willing, they are ready to fight the legal battle. And like I said, you can already see the end from the beginning. Unless our reporters can pull off something to say, yes, there's a document like that indicting this man, even though it's not in the public domain, but here it is. If that happens, that anyway, when the action commences in court. Of course, you don't expect them to lie low. Maybe they have materials which Burata himself is not seized with yet. Of course, if those materials pop up, they could become a mitigating factor to the consequences that will befall them at the end of the day.
All right, we hope that Sarah reporters will do the needful, or maybe it serves as a deterrent to other, especially the number of citizen journalists that we have today that just jumps in and publishes everything without checks, and of course giving opportunity for the right gatekeepers to do the needful. But let's go over to the Abuja Kaduna attack right now. Hostages health deteriorates as 7 persons freed on medical grounds. Gunmen who attacked a train in northwest Nigeria's Kaduna state in March have released 7 more hostages following talks initiated by a negotiator, Tuko Mamu, who is not affiliated with the government but negotiated the deal to release the hostages. He said the group, which included 6 men and a woman, were freed on as they required urgent medical attention. According to Tukor Mamu, 7 more hostages have been released, and only one of them is a Pakistani expatriate, the only foreigner among the hostages. 18 hostages have been released through negotiations I spearheaded. This Tukor Mamu talking. Gumi is a spokesperson. While 44 remain in captivity, he added. Mamu, a publisher of local news magazine Desert Herald in the northern city of Kaduna, was contacted by the gunmen to broker negotiation for the hostages. You'll recall that on March 28, armed men blew up a train traveling between Abuja to Kaduna and opened fire, killing 8 people, wounding 26, and taking an unspecified number of passengers hostage. A week later, they freed 1 hostage, a top bank executive, as a goodwill gesture for Ramadan, the Muslim holy month of fasting. Because of this, his advanced age. Mamu and security sources said Ansaru, a Boko Haram breakaway faction, was behind the train attack. Last month, Mamu facilitated the release of the first set of 11 hostages in exchange for 8 children belonging to the train attackers. After a month-long back-channel negotiation, Mamu claimed no ransom was paid for the release, saying he only made passionate and sustained appeal to the captors because of the deteriorating health of the hostages. The captors had earlier threatened to start executing the hostages in response to government's failure to negotiate with them and meet their demands. He said their demands included the release of 16 of the group's commanders in jail, including its leader, Khalid Banawi, who is serving a life sentence. I'm coming back to you, Barrister Eugene Ode. This issue of Gumi's man, or Gumi himself, negotiating not without the government's authorization, what are we looking? This has been going on for so long. How do you have access to terrorists who are terrorizing Nigerians within our territory, and the security agencies can't have access to them?
Let's be very practical and very realistic. You cannot say for sure that Gumi is acting alone. You can't say that for sure. There are some certain security details that you will never see in the public domain. A lot of things may be happening behind the scenes unknown to Nigerians. For all you know, Gumi may very well be a decoy. In criminal jurisprudence, there's what we call adjunct provocateur. These are people who are embedded in the camp of the enemy to gather information and to help with security strategy on how to resolve the issue. So the issue of Gumi, I don't want to make any straight, direct statement. I know the sentiments across the country. Why is it that this man knows so much about these people and the government is turning their eyes the other way? Why don't you hold this man and find out what the connection is with? That's the natural commonsensical question that any average Nigerian. But in security strategy, it doesn't always work like that. If you remember during the Niger Delta crisis, we had people like that all over the Niger Delta who were go-betweens, government and the militants, and also the international organizations who were also interested in resolving the issue. We had go-betweens like that. So for me, Gumi is playing a very vital role in the resolution of this crisis in the north. I think he should be cut some slack to allow. The issue is the solution.
But okay, I agree with you. Cut some slack.
Yes.
But so Eugene, are we making any progress?
Well,
what slack are we cutting? We see a man negotiating for the government for quite some time right now, yet the terrorists are gaining grounds, doing more on whatever they wish to do and how they wish to do it. This has been going on for so long that one is wondering, what kind of negotiation are we talking about here? Why is this negotiation not yielding any fruit? Why are we still in a position where every day you're releasing some? What exactly are we looking at? Can Gumi, for instance, since the government can't tell us, since security agencies can't do it, can Gumi at least tell us what we are looking at here? At least a way out of the quagmire.
I think the onus is actually on the government. My attention is more on the government than Gumi. We have the DSS, we have the Nigerian Police Intelligence Unit, we have the Nigerian Army Intelligence Unit, and all the intelligence units of all our security agencies. We have the best trained in Africa. And that's why I keep saying, why do we always want to think that the best way to resolve this issue is reactionary? When in fact, remember the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, made a statement some months back that he feels disappointed in the system because they know where to find these people. And that even before they take those actions, before they strike, before they go bombing and before they go attack, that Nigerian security agencies are always aware. That day, he himself, he said, sitting in his office, he can even see where they are, and most times he wonders why they don't go there and smoke these people out. So for me, that statement from someone like El-Rufai is indicative of the fact that there could be some insider collaboration within our Nigerian security agencies. Some people may be benefiting from the status quo, for all you know. Okay? So for me, I don't want to look so much in the direction of Gumi. If somebody has been able to negotiate the release of 7 victims, and maybe more, and probably some more will be coming out in some few days, as the case may be, that for me, I think is a positive result. The man has actually done something positive that we should define. You can imagine the joy in that, you know, went on the ground to secure the release of those people. For me, is not material for now. But I think we should be looking at the proactive. Every Nigerian has become a security expert. I'm a lawyer now, but look at me talking about security and providing solutions to security agencies. These are people who are trained both locally and abroad, internationally. They have this information. They have the database. Why they have refused to act on it, it still remains a big question in the mouth of every Nigerian. I don't think our Nigerian military, our security agencies don't have the competence. I don't think they don't have the resources. The issue is not that they are not trained or they don't have the resources. I think the problem is the command structure, which is defective. And the buck should stop on the table of Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. These are soldiers who have gone to Liberia and shown, shown themselves. They've gone to Syria. They've gone to Sierra Leone and quench wars. These are soldiers. These are military men who have gone outside the country, even in UN peacekeeping missions in different parts of the country, and they came back gallantly. You know, not to talk of our Nigerian police force. We have one of the best and well-equipped in Africa. So these ragtag soldiers cannot hold this country to ransom without some insider collaboration.
And that brings us another of Abacha's line: when an insecurity, lasts for more than 24 hours, look for inwards. But let's go to you now, Chris.
Right. So it's a good thing that Alaba, you mentioned something about the trained soldiers or the military personnel that you think that they are good, and then the database you think they all know, and also you also talked about the different people that think they know in or out of these security places that should be an insider and all of that. Now, the question now that begs to be answered is, where do you think much attention should be given to that is neglected in Nigeria, especially in the aspects of security?
I think there should be an overhaul of our military intelligence apparatus. I don't think it will be very difficult to fish out those who leak out this information. We are in an era of ICT, information technology, where we have drones within the Nigerian army and even the Nigerian police. We have internal stopgap and watches even within themselves. All right, so it's not impossible to be able to remove the stones from the wheat. It's very, very possible. First of all, let us look inward, like you said. Let them begin to search themselves. And I'm very sure that if they are able to look inward, they will find that those leakages, those security leakages that you often see, because sometimes I've had situations where even some of the soldiers themselves have complained that they will get a command to go to a certain camp to destroy it. Before they will get there, that camp has been dismantled because information leaked. Sometimes also, they send them on these missions and they get ambushed. How did that information of that movement leak to the opponent? It must have been from within the system.
Again, we established it's looks like an
Exactly.
insider job.
Exactly.
All right, wait,
Exactly.
let's get to you now, Patience.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, talking about this insecurity challenge, I see this as a step to government whereby negotiations are being placed on tables and conditions are given. But then the question is, would you say that governments are too relaxed in curbing the issue of insecurity? That's why these terrorist agitators or these negotiators are being lenient, or they are now putting government under their feet. Would you say that Nigerian government is not doing more? They are too relaxed. That is why we are still at this point of negotiation.
My dear, anything you say about the Nigerian government in respect of insecurity is correct. If you say they are relaxed, if you say they are sleeping, if you say they are nonchalant, whatever you want to use to describe the Nigerian government negatively about the way they have handled this insecurity, you will be absolutely correct. You saw the reaction of Mr. President, when he went to inspect what happened at the Kuje prison. It was very disappointing. That is not how the president should have responded. It's better he didn't even say anything and just walked away. But he went there and was expressing shock like those of us who are outside. He's surprised at what happened. He's disappointed I'm even disappointed in his disappointment. Okay, so whatever you want to say about the Nigerian government in respect of this issue of insecurity, you are absolutely, you call them laid back, you call them lazy, you call them whatever name you want to call them. I think they themselves have admitted it. But sometimes you also want to look at a balance, a middle ground sometimes. For instance, I remember when the president was confronted by the media about this issue of the train attack and why we still had people in captivity. And he said something, and that's, for me, I could understand that the assailants, the bandits, whoever they were, are using human shields, making it difficult for them to be taken out. And globally, you know that that's one of the reasons why they take captives in the first place, so that they use them as shields. So that you don't, if you come out and you want to take them out, there's no how you're not going to kill innocent victims. You might be going there to go to rescue the victims, and the victims actually become your target, unknown to you. They can dress them like the terrorists themselves and set them up for you to slaughter. And they have escaped. So sometimes it's not just a run-of-the-mill approach. it has to be very strategic. That's why you see that sometimes they resort to using NGOs to negotiate. Of course, government cannot come out openly and negotiate with terrorists. You know, it doesn't happen anywhere in the world where government will stick out their neck and begin to negotiate directly with terrorists. So you will definitely see that. I mean, that's why you see Gumi becoming, standing out. Of course, he won't come out and say he's negotiating on behalf of the government. You won't ever see anybody come out to say he's negotiating on behalf of the government, because government is not supposed to negotiate with terrorists. But the truth is that the government, within the system itself, my query is that within the system itself, there is rot. And the government has not shown commitment to deal with the cankerworm that is eating us from within the system.
All right. But when Goodluck Jonathan was in office, the biggest clamor against him was that he lacked the will to fight insecurity or to do anything. That was the biggest notes on which they sold him out to the public as someone who doesn't have what it takes. We have a Buhari, a former general, military general, who promised to fix the security situation, under whose watch more rots, more embarrassing rots seem to be facing the Nigerian public on a daily basis. Bring this back to what you have elucidated this morning. There is rot within the military hierarchy. El-Rufai has attested to this. He has literally given up on the security apparatus when recently he said, I think it was in this Kaduna training, he's going to get a mercenary. Yeah. Because these guys don't seem to have had. He has even said that they know where these guys are. We have seen the government of Buhari invest so much money in purchase of military hardwares and what have you. Yet, one key factor that seemed to be messing with the whole thing, the efforts, or supposedly, is poor or lack of intelligence. We have the DSS, we have all this military intelligence around, yet we are still here. When it comes to 2023, what are some of the signs we need to know that, okay, this man or this woman have what it takes to nip this in the bud? Because we seem to know what the situation is, but there's no will to actually get it done.
This insecurity issue is a very complex issue. You may not have a one-stop shop in resolving this issue. It's hydra-headed, it's multifaceted. If you look at it only from the aspect of the politicians, the government having the political will to deal with the issue, and you stop there, you don't also look at other areas involved in this, because even the citizens themselves are aiding and abetting. They don't report. You see movement around your community and you just stay mum. You don't say anything. You don't call. We are human beings. The Nigerian army and the government is manned by human beings. They are not expected to know everything. For instance, in my house now, if armed robbers attack my house now, if I don't shout, if I don't call for help, how will the government know? That's why I'm saying that it's multifaceted. It's not just on the side of government. Even we, the citizens, are also complicit. For instance, this jailbreak that just happened in Abuja, in the center of the country. These people were not manufactured in the center of the country. They may have traveled. Abuja is not a border city. You have to have come through Chad into Borno, down and traveled. That movement all the ways from the north into Abuja is quite a long distance. And they went through communities. And the question is, how were they able to make that movement and succeeded in that attack and went unchallenged?
Again, it boils down to the lack of will to actually nip it in the bud.
The point is that information too also matters a lot.
When you get this information, who are you supposed to give it to?
You give it to the security agencies.
Do you trust them? Are they not the same security agents that were held in the Kuje prison?
That's what I'm saying.
They were aware there was information that 24 hours to the time.
That's what I'm saying. It's multifaceted.
Okay.
I've heard that somebody actually came out to say Nigerian security agencies were always aware that that attack was going to happen and that they received hints. They gave them hints that such a thing was
Proud
going to
to
happen.
the attack.
And nothing was done to, stop it. And that's why I'm saying that, of course, at the end of this whole blame game, the ball will stop on the table of the president. If I were the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria...
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, if I were the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Constitution gives the commander-in-chief of the armed forces almost absolute powers to decide how to manage the armed forces of the Federal Republic and the police, the paramilitary. You can hire and fire at your pleasure. If the president wakes up today and says, look, enough of all this, all of you, bug off. And that is it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. You can today make a statement and dissolve the entire hierarchy of all the security agencies and replace with the ones who are ready to do the job. We were thinking that with all these things happening, I don't think Blowout should have even lasted as long as it lasted. All right? By the time heads begin to roll, people will sit up.
All right. So
anybody coming will understand that I have a job on my table and my job is dependent on my performance. And you will not be fighting for the country, so to speak, which of course you want to do. First and foremost, you'll be fighting for yourself, knowing that my life and my job is dependent on my performance. But if we have a situation where these things happen and nobody is called to account.
So basically, it boils down to the president cutting off the hierarchy that seemed not to be performing and fixing the actual roles. All right. Thank you for giving us that solution, and we hope they are listening, and we hope they can take it from there. But let's go to our last story for this morning, and that's Tinubu has chosen former governor of Borno State, Shettima, as his running mate. Now, the reports indicate that All Progressive Congress of presidential candidate has chosen former Senator Kashim Shettima and former Borno State Governor as his running mate. The news agency of Nigeria had also reported one of its bulletins on the vice presidential candidate will be unveiled to President Muhammad Buhari, who is the leader of the party in his hometown in Daura, Katsina State. Now, you will recall that Shettima played a lead role in the pre-presidential primaries campaign of Tinubu. Shettima, the representative of Borno Central Senatorial District, was a former two-term governor of Borno State. Now, the interesting thing about Shettima is that he ran a state. In fact, he literally broke down crying at some point.
I remember him crying, on national TV.
Because he was overwhelmed.
He gave up on the entire issue of Boko Haram in his way. Remember, yes.
So he's going...
the vice president of Tinubu. As a person, he's qualified. There's no constitutional bar. He's experienced. He has served as governor, and he has served almost at the high. In fact, once you're a governor, you're a member of the National Working Committee of the party, NEC, member of the National Executive Committee of the party. So at the highest level, he has served, and he's competent and qualified to aspire to any position, not religious nation. We have Christians who are a large population, whether you like it or not. Christianity is not a southern religion. Christianity, because there are so many Christians in the north, even more than you can even imagine. You have Christians in the western part of the country, you have Christians in the southern part of the country, including south and southeast. Anyway, in the southern part of the country, we have predominantly Christians. And that's the large number. There is this feeling, taking into account our religious sentiments. They're operating in Ondo State, they're operating in some, even in Edo State, and all that. So this thing is causing a little bit of uneasiness amongst the Christian faith.
All right.
And if they decide to say, okay, you want to have a Muslim ticket in the midst of all this, then we are going to answer you accordingly with our votes. Then you can be sure that it's going to be a very serious problem for APC. People's choice at the end of the day.
All right, let's quickly go over to Chris.
Thank you. So when the guest was talking about this, I was already boiling. I really want to talk about it because according to Tinubu, why he picked Chita to be his vice. According to him, he went back to 1993 when MKO Abiola chose a fellow Muslim candidate, that's Ghana, to be his vice. And then, although the report has it that it was one of the fairest elections so far held in Nigeria. Now, the question from my own part is, then in 1993, the free spirit of Nigerians, the free spirit of independence, this free spirit of we are here, we want to work things out, the togetherness and the less corruption.
All right, all right. Thank you very
Now,
much, Chris. Let's quickly go over to patience now.
Okay, now I'll quickly put my take on this. Still on the Muslim ticket, will you agree that, are you actually satisfied with Tinubu's choice of candidate for vice president? Still looking at the Muslim ticket, because there have been a lot of reactions.
Like I said, I have no problems with Shetima as an individual. He's a brilliant, excellent gentleman. He's a Nigerian. I have no problem. If you ask me as an individual, I have no problems with Shetima being the vice for Tinubu. But the issue is that my brother talked about the 1993 scenario. The issue is that Nigeria has evolved. You cannot use the basis of 1993, the dynamics of 1993, to force a presidential election. You must have a vice. I don't think anybody cared about who the vice was at that point in time. Nobody cared whether he was a Muslim. Whoever he was not the issue. The issue was people wanted Abiola to become the president of this country because we were coming out of, it was like a doorway out of the military junta that had held this country bound for a long time. When a man is hungry, anything becomes food. When a man is hungry, anything you give him is food. So Nigeria was hungry for democracy when that incident happened in 1993. So the scenarios are different. Now we have the democracy. We've experienced it for over 20 years now.
The APC in Rivers State, maybe that's another thing that the APC national needs
to
look at.
You never know.
Is begin to look at. Thank you so much, Alabo Eugene Ode, for being part of
my pleasure. Always
ATM
a pleasure.
Blowout this morning. Thank you. It's always an honor to have. Is not even a question here. We must have the right conversation. We must use our platform right. We must ensure that we study these candidates and understand who are we going to, am I going to give the next 8 years of my life with my one vote. Your one vote can make all the difference. So who are you watching? Are you following the candidates from the local government to the governorship candidates to the presidential candidates? This is not a time for Nigerians to feel like we can get to